Thank you for joining me. My name is Chris Anderson, manager of the Housing School at the Community Housing Transformation Center. In this short video, I'll share our vision for the Housing School as a platform to propel the conversation on professional development into action. We'll begin with an overview of the center itself and then look at some of the current challenges facing the sector with regards to professional development and upskilling. We'll then turn to how the housing school serves as an opportunity to address these challenges before looking at opportunities for partnership and next steps. The Community Housing Transformation Center is a national nonprofit society created by leading sector organizations and supported by the federal government under the National Housing Strategy back in 2018. The center's work can be summarized in three key activity areas. The first is the offering of services, tools, and resources. The second is the delivery of grant programs. And the third is leading innovative projects, such as the Housing School. The aspiration and the mission of the center is to unite the sector around a 20% housing market share by leveraging its strengths. And we do this in two ways. The first is as a catalyst to preserve and increase the number of homes within a thriving community housing sector. The second is through the development of resources, people, and processes to diversify leadership and improve sector viability. The overall mission of the center is to transform Canada's community housing sector by catalyzing partnerships, new ideas, and resources. There is incredibly important work being done in the realm of professional development and upskilling across the sector. But there are also challenges, and on this slide I'll speak to three. The first is the growing need for more well-trained staff. With significant growth in the investments made in the community housing sector has come an increased and imminent demand for new skilled employees. As well, we need to be paying attention to the continuing education of existing employees. So challenges here can be that existing offerings may be oversubscribed. There can be federal and provincial inattention or a lack of resources to support specific training needs, and some regions face limited opportunities for professional development. This could be in the form of a lack of access to the materials. It could be in the form of a lack of resources to develop materials and training content that will serve specific areas and populations. The second challenge I'll speak to is just navigating the opportunities themselves. Across the sector, there is significant duplication of effort, but there are also gaps in training. And with multiple organizations offering opportunities, it can become very confusing for a learner to understand what opportunities are best suited for them. There are also technical resource limits that impact or that limit what a given organization can develop and create and how that can be shared at present. The third challenge I'll speak to is the need for recognition, national recognition of skills. Currently, there is little recognition of community housing professionals' skills and competencies, such as a professional designation that is both accessible and widely recognized throughout the sector. So challenges with regards to recognition of skills are that existing programs that do so can be expensive or they can be difficult to access. There may also be uneven acceptance of existing certifications across the country and perhaps too few options that are targeting a variety of career paths within the sector. So let's look at four aims or ways for the housing school to address some of these challenges. The first aim is for the housing school to become a go-to destination, essentially a platform that people want to use, but that comes top of mind when we start thinking about upskilling and professional development within the sector. So an intuitive, centralized experience for a learner to access content, navigate opportunity, train, and obtain certification within a single place. But it's very important to mention that this is a go-to destination, not the only destination. There are a number of excellent existing platforms and providers who are meeting the needs of localized or regional content around professional development. The second is as a venue for establishing sectoral standards of practice, and the third as a catalyst. So, in addition to the housing school's technical infrastructure, the social governance of the platform is key, and this can be a tool that reflects the sector's own goals towards what it means to be a community housing professional. And finally, the housing school can support as a support center, so it should reduce the burden on educators in the sector so that your focus can be on creating relevant content rather than on directing resources to administration or IT or problem solving of technical challenges. Having spoken on those four key aims, it's important to mention that the housing school is envisioned as a longer term project. Now, the initial work to ready for pilot launch, including the building of the technical infrastructure and setting the groundwork for the social infrastructure that will govern the entity in the years to come, is already underway. But at the outset, we've identified four initial offerings that can add value, and they focus on convening and building resources for partners. The first is a certification process. This will begin with the Chartered Institute of Housing designation, but as more content and more certifications are added, it will allow for a greater choice among learners within the platform across providers. Additionally, identifying and supporting organizations in building new certifications, establishing standards and equivalents where they don't currently exist, are opportunities that the school presents. The low-cost learning management system will allow content providing partners to concentrate on training rather than on IT development. So the platform will be customized to the sector's needs, be human-centered, be accessible, and in future possibly allow for organization-specific HR considerations. The portal for career and course navigation will allow a learner to navigate and compare offerings between different service providers. It will allow us to gather feedback from attendees to share that with our content partners. It will allow a learner to track progress and will involve an easy to navigate course catalog and career tracking for both online and offline activities. In future, including professional development plans and career competency roadmaps. And finally, I'll speak to the fourth initial offering of the data collection tool. Now, this will allow our partners to see the overall training offering, identify missing pieces, detect successful formulas, as well as the not so successful content and how it can be supported. We'll be able to provide customizable reports, specific utilization data on behalf of learners, and integrated professional development and HR reporting where relevant. The housing school fits within the center's role as a convener within the sector and an infrastructure builder. The platform specifically is made up of two main components. The first being the technical. I've spoken on the learning management system and that IT infrastructure and portal itself. The second is the social, which will include an educational advisory committee who will have input and oversight on the content that is approved for inclusion within the platform, as well as the curricular strategy to ensure that content and programming held within the school is responsive to the needs of the sector. Our first housing school partnership involves transitioning the Chartered Institute of Housing content from the UK audience to the Canadian housing sector. These are designations of relevance to professionals that have been in the sector for some time, but also show what is possible and allows us the opportunity to identify where content may be relevant to all sorts of professionals within the housing sector and what types of content could help to fill those gaps and provide value. So what this partnership means for CAH Canada is it allows for the continued Canadianization of content for Canada's housing providers. And this will include an eventual shift towards providing support and access to tutors based here within Canada, as well as enabling more direct control of course management and resources and encouraging wider access to CIH offerings. It also allows us to start thinking about the future of the platform. What are the next steps for content to support learners that may be interested in, but not quite ready yet for full CIH designations? So this brings us to the real crux of this presentation. How can your organization become a partner and what are the options? We've listed 4 here. The first being as a content provider, whether you have existing content delivered online or you have content that is currently not delivered online, but you see an opportunity for that delivery style, we would love to talk to you. Whether you have webinars that are being hosted or could be hosted on the platform, video content, we're able to point professionals your way. This will be a platform that has a lot of interest across the sector. So looking at what the educational content that is available or that could be created could be, and allowing us to take control and responsibility for how that content is delivered on the technical side. The second is around thought leadership. So through promotional and convening networks or supporting communities of practice. And the third is the advisory committee that I mentioned. This will be made up of sector subject matter experts. And part of their involvement will be standardizing external content for review and approval. And then finally, as a funder, whether this be operational funding, funding for research and development of new services, bursaries for educational offerings, or licensing the platform specifically for your organization's human resources in the future, these are all opportunities that the platform itself will present. One of the really unique opportunities with the housing school is to amplify the excellence that already exists within the sector, to scale its accessibility to new places and to new learners and to fill gaps where we've been able to identify them and be responsive to the needs of the sector and its learners. So with that, this is an opportunity to scale and learn as a sector, to convene and develop mutual recognition, shared standards, and a platform in its truest sense upon which we can be bolder and a bit more daring in how the sector is offering education. As the bolded sentence at the bottom of this slide says, we can only advance the upskilling and professional recognition of the sector together. For our next steps, we are completing the branding, user experience design, the learning management system, and portal infrastructure for a pilot launch in early 2025. In late fall of 2024, perhaps early 2025, we'll be convening the Education Advisory Committee, who will provide insight on content, curriculum, and needs with regards to focal areas for the housing school. The Housing School represents an opportunity for us to support the professional development and upskilling of the sector together. Opportunities exist around content provision and development, around thought leadership, as a member of the Education Advisory Committee, or as a funder. If any of these opportunities or the ideas that I've shared in this short video resonate with you, I would love to connect, and I've left my email and phone number on the slide. Thank you again for your interest and time.